thought I had my summer knitting plans completely figured out. And then over the last couple of weeks I came across so many beautiful patterns that my queue ended up changing quite a bit. So today I am sharing the 6 projects that officially made the cut, plus one honorary mention that's still trying very hard to work its way onto my needles. Hi there and welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name's Luisa, but everybody calls me Lu. And this is a cozy corner of the internet where we talk about knitting, yarn, and all of the projects currently taking over my brain. And today I am sharing my knitting plans for the summer of 2026. I have cardigans, tees, a lace sweater, a gift knit that I may or may not end up keeping for myself, several new to me yarns, and quite a few projects that feel a little experimental. But before we get into all of that, let's quickly look back at how my spring knitting plans actually turned out. Back in spring, I shared plans for 7 garments, 5 of which were sweaters. One was for my mom, another one was a vest, and then there was a tee that I couldn't decide on between 2 options. I ended up going with a completely different pattern for the tee, but I finished it and it's really cute in my opinion. In fact, I am wearing it today. There was only one project that I ended up not casting on. It was a sweater, but that's completely fine. And when it comes to my mom's gift knit, the original idea was to knit the soft current sweater, bowl and pine, but my mom fell in love with the Petro Polo by Petite Knit, so that's what I cast on, and I'm still working on, in fact. It's right behind me, right over there. I'm in the home stretch now, and it should be finished today if everything goes according to plan. So the only other project I have on my needles right now is the Frost Lines cardigan by Andrea Maury, but that will also get finished this week, which means I'll be heading into summer with completely free needles and quite a few plans. Looking back, I'm actually really happy with how my spring went. Most of the projects got finished, the ones that didn't are almost done, and I managed to stay surprisingly close to my original plans. And that's exactly how I approached this summer list as well. These aren't every project I want to knit. If they were, we'd be here all day. So these are the projects I've carefully chosen because I genuinely want to make time for them this summer. And looking through this list, I realized that almost every single project involves something I've never tried before, whether that's a new yarn, a new designer, a new construction method, or a new garment style. So I think we'll have a lot of fun this summer. And let's start with the project I'm probably most curious about, which is the Midland Cardigan by Penrose. And the reason I'm really curious about it is because of its construction. It is knit sideways, which is something I've never done before, and I already have the yarn I plan to use for this project. I have here with me Juniper Moon Farm in their Patagonia base. This is 100% wool. It's a new to me yarn and I've heard great things about it, so I'm excited to try this out. This is colorway Mulberry and it is a sport weight yarn. The pattern is written for a DK weight, but I think I can make some tweaks and make this yarn work. I already had 2 skeins of this yarn in my stash, but when I decided to use it for the Midland Cardigan, I went back to the yarn shop to get some more. But the problem was that the dye lot was completely different and the shade of pink was much darker. The lady at the shop ended up offering to let me take all 5 skeins home and ship my original 2 skeins back to the shop, which is what I did. And I still can't believe how generous that was, and I'm really thankful she gave me that opportunity. I love a good dark pink. It's definitely one of my favorite colors. And this cardigan feels perfect for those cooler summer mornings and evenings. Just an easy throw on layer, so I think I'm going to have plenty of opportunities to wear this cardigan in the summer. And it also has some really nice details like the double knit button band, which I love, and the faux seam along the sleeves and the tops of the shoulders. I've been wanting to cast this on since the pattern came out in January of 2025, and this will be my first garment project from this designer. The only other project of hers I've worked on was the Sweet Shop blanket, and I really enjoyed her writing style, so I'm curious to see what I think of this cardigan. And by the way, the sun is coming in and out all the time today, and I don't know how the camera is dealing with this lighting situation, but we will keep going. Sometimes a project gets onto the list because it fits a wardrobe gap. This one got onto the list because I think the knitting process itself will be really interesting and fun. And because I wanted to add a couple of hand knit cardigans to my wardrobe this year, so it's a win-win. And speaking of projects that have been sitting on my to knit list for quite a while now, let's talk about my lace sweater plans. I want to cast on the Madeleine Sweater by Pernille Larsen, who I think is the designer behind all of Knitting for Olive's patterns. This one was recommended by one of you guys a while back. I fell in love with it and it's been sitting on my to knit list ever since. I always like to knit a lace sweater in the summer, but well, actually I started doing that only last year, but I want to keep the tradition going. I really like the romantic look of an all-over lace sweater, and this one is worked from the bottom up, and it's been a minute since I worked on a bottom-up sweater. The last one was the Traveler hoodie by Andrea Mari, which is currently packed away because that sweater is as hot as a baked potato wrapped in foil. I don't usually wear a lot of lace, but there's something about all over lace sweaters that catches my eye every now and then, and this was definitely one of those instances. Another great option I came across a while back was the Rodolphe sweater, or Rodolphe, I guess I should say, sweater by Kolibri by Johanna. This one is knit top down and it's from a smaller designer, which I always love supporting, but the lace motif is a bit broader than it is in the Madeleine sweater. The Madeleine has a small, garter section between the lace repeats. It's a shame, but I really prefer the look of the Madeleine. I don't know if anyone else sees this, but I see tiny little houses all over this design with lacy roofs, and once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it. So that's my plan for my lace sweater this year. The pattern is written for 2 strands of Knitting for Olive no waste wool to get a worsted weight gauge, but I've seen projects where people used their cotton merino base, and I really liked that idea. I just finished my sea salt tee that I'm wearing today using cotton merino. It was my first time using that yarn and I really enjoyed it. But I've also had this drops bell in my stash for a while now in this off-white, really light beige color. And I originally bought it last year to knit the Emmanuel tee, also by Kolibri by Johanna. But when I finally got around to casting it on a few weeks ago, you guys pointed out that it wasn't exactly a bra-friendly project. So I ended up casting on the sea salt tee instead. Anyway, all of that is to say that I have this drops bell in my stash and I think it could work beautifully for the Madeleine. I bought 2 more balls to get the metric I needed for my size, and I've seen quite a few people use drops bell for this pattern and all of their sweaters look gorgeous. In fact, I think I even prefer using a summer blend for this project. Since it's all over lace, it makes it more suitable for warmer weather, and my other lace sweater is already wool and mohair, so they won't compete with each other at all. I think the sweater will look gorgeous paired with black trousers for a more sophisticated look, or with light wash jeans if I want something softer and more romantic. This feels like one of those projects where I've spent more time deciding between patterns than I'll probably spend knitting it. I've gone back and forth between the Madeleine and the Rodolphe so many times, but now I'm committed to the Madeleine, and maybe I'll even cast it on this week. Or maybe next week. We'll see. So that's the elegant romantic lace sweater of the list. And let's completely swing in the opposite direction and talk about a project that's basically a yarn rescue mission. I want to cast on the Sollas Tea by Rebecca Clow. This is a fresh out of the oven pattern. It came out back in April, I think, but I only came across it this past week. As with many of Rebecca's patterns, this one comes with a ridiculous number of options and customization opportunities. It includes a tee, a Henley, a cardigan, short sleeves, long sleeves, all of that in both fingering and DK weight gauges, so it's basically the perfect pattern to have in your library. I completely fell in love with the green cardigan version with short sleeves. It looks so cute, and I love the fit of satin sleeves. This pattern has the same gauge as some of Rebecca's other well-known patterns like the Toaster and the Lusk Tee. In fact, I needed the Lusk Tee last summer, but I went with a textured version that time. I briefly considered casting on another one in plain stockinette this year, but I just can't get the button front Sollas cardigan out of my head, so that's what I'm going with. I'm not usually a round neck cardigan girl, but I see this more as a tee than a cardigan because of the short sleeves, so the round neck feels perfect here. It will be my first button front summer garment, and I couldn't be more excited to cast this on. But this project is basically a yarn rescue mission, like I said. I want to use some leftovers from my Clematis sweater by Emma Maya, and I have a little over one skein left of this Malabrigo sock. This is 100% superwash merino wool, and I just have this much left. This is colorway 343 Legend. This is absolutely gorgeous, unbelievably soft, but since it's hand-dyed, getting more isn't exactly straightforward, and I absolutely love how it feels next to skin, so I wanted to use it for something special. On its own though, there isn't enough yarn for a Sollas, but I also have this lonely skein of premium merino yak in... Is there a colorway number somewhere? Colorway 7508. This what? Kind of in medium purple, pinkish color. And I think these two yarns make the most gorgeous color combination. Look at that. I think they complement each other so well. So my plan is to knit a striped short sleeve Sollas cardigan with all of the ribbing worked in the merino yak. I've never knitted with yak before, so I'm curious to see what I think of it. And I might get away with the amount of yarn I have, but I'll definitely be cutting it close, so this could also be a really terrible idea. The colors look so good together though that I honestly think it's worth the risk, but we'll see. I even tried to get my hands on one more bowl of the merino yak, but I think it's either discontinued or there's some sort of distribution issue because I can't find it anywhere. This project might end up being dictated entirely by how much yarn I have left, and honestly, I think I'm okay with that. Now, from my stash rescue mission to the complete opposite, let's talk about the most colorful project on this list. I want to cast on the Show Your Colors tee by Sari Nordlund. This is another recent release. I think this one came out only last month, and just like the name suggests, this project is pure fun. It features a raglan construction with colorful stripes and feels like the perfect everyday summer tee. It also has a folded edge instead of the traditional ribbing, which I absolutely love for summer garments. Originally, I wanted to use scraps and leftovers for the stripes, but my stash of summer yarns is honestly pretty tiny and I didn't have anything that could work. So I decided to make the most of the situation and try a new to me yarn. There's a shop all over Europe called Zostrane Grene, and every time I walk into one, I see someone buying their cotton yarn. Eventually, curiosity got the better of me, so I got a few balls to try out. This is a fingering weight 100% cotton yarn, and they have a really nice selection of colors. Maybe I can show you like this. The colors look a little bit dull because of this plastic pack, but I think it's easier to show you like this. I've never knitted with any of their yarns before, but I felt like this was the perfect low-risk project to give them a try. I chose a kind of a turquoise blue and this medium brown. Let me show you the label in case you want to check it out online. 100% cotton, and my plan is to pair with this green and a pink. I don't know how to describe these colors, and I just went with a traditional off-white as the base. This yarn is pretty affordable. I think each ball costs around $2.40, so I'm not expecting it to be the greatest yarn I've ever knitted with, but I do think I can make a really cute summer tee using this yarn. I can already picture it with linen shorts or some medium wash jeans. So for the colors, I tried to create a slightly moodier version of a classic pastel palette. So I started with pink, blue, green and yellow, but I chose darker shades of each. So these are my colors. I don't know if I completely succeeded in that vision, but I do really like these colors together, so I'm okay with that. And for the base, like I said, I chose this off-white to let the stripes stand out. I don't know if this will become a wardrobe staple, but I do know I'll have fun knitting it. And now, as much as I love knitting garments, I also like having at least one non-garment project on my needles during the summer. And for this year, I chose the Chapter Cushion by Lily Kate Mix. This is another new to me designer. She has some really cute designs, but I've never knitted anything from her before, so I'm excited to finally change that. Last summer, I knitted a couple of pouches and project bags, and just last week, I mentioned that I was considering knitting the Stella Quilt Cushion by Laura Penrose as a gift knit for a friend. Then I came across this pattern and immediately changed my mind. From what I understand, this is a mosaic knitting project and both sides of the cushion are worked separately. One side is made up of 4 triangles and the other features 2 overlapping rectangles with buttons. Then everything gets joined together with an I-cord edging. The pattern page says any yarn weight can work, but the sample uses worsted weight yarn, and my stash of worsted weight is basically non-existent. The only thing I really have is some leftover Eastex Plottulopi, and that felt like a terrible choice for a cushion that people are supposed to cuddle, right? One thing that I really love about this pattern is how flexible it is. You can change the stripe widths, use 2 colors or go completely wild with the colors. And my color palette is actually copied from another Reverie project. I wish I could take the credit for it, but I absolutely cannot. Another knitter used 6 contrast colors and 1 main color, and the result was gorgeous. She used a yarn that was fairly easy for me to get, but unfortunately she didn't list the exact colorways, so I did my best detective work and picked the colors that looked similar. So this is what I ended up with. A white, this isn't actually white, it's more of a really light beige, but maybe I guess I could say it's an off-white. It's upside down. This is Rico Design Essentials Soft Merino. The label says it's Aran, but she made it work, so I think I can make it work also. And I chose 6 different contrast colors. I think this is going to look amazing, and I genuinely think this might end up being one of the prettiest things on this list. In fact, I almost regret buying this yarn because I can already see myself wanting to keep this cushion instead of gifting it. But if that happens, I can always knit another one, right? I mean, that's a problem for future me. Present me just wants to cast this on. In fact, I would say the recipient's reaction may ultimately determine whether they get this cushion or a second version, so we'll see. And let's finally finish the list with the project that most recently found its way onto the list. And I want to share with you the Crystal Creek Tea by Anniina Juuti, and I'm sorry because I'm almost sure I pronounced the name wrong. I only came across this pattern a few days ago, and I immediately fell in love with the lace details along the hem and cuffs. I think they give the whole garment a romantic look without feeling overly sweet, and the pattern includes both short and long sleeve options, and I plan on knitting the latter. The sleeves are almost bell-shaped or something like that, and I've been liking that silhouette more and more lately. I also don't own anything remotely like this, which is strange because every time I see a garment with details like this, I absolutely love it. I think we are all used to seeing colorwork accents at the hem and cuffs, but lace details in those places feel a little less common, so that's probably part of what caught my attention. The first thing that really made me stop scrolling though was one of the sample photos in a vibrant red color. I love red, and it seems to be becoming more and more of a favorite color for me. This pattern is knit at a DK weight gauge, and the recommended yarn is actually Drops Bell. I briefly considered using something else, so I wouldn't end with 2 Bell projects on the same list. But as I've mentioned already several times, my stash of summer yarns is tiny, and I don't have a single DK weight summer yarn sitting around, regardless of color. So if I end up liking Bell in the Madeleine, I may very well use it here also. There's a dark purple colorway that I think would look beautiful for the sweater, and that's currently my leading contender, I would say. This is yet another raglan construction, yes, but some habits are worth embracing, so here I am. This one feels versatile enough that it won't be limited to summer, and I can easily see myself wearing it from spring all the way into early fall. I'm also really curious which of my 2 Bell projects I'll end up wearing more. On paper, they feel fairly similar roles in my wardrobe, which is why I'm intentionally choosing completely different colors for them. And that's currently my summer knitting list. Now, if I somehow manage to knit all of that and still have time left over, there's one honorary mention: the Rainy Day Cardigan by Sari Nordlund. I already have a gorgeous summer yarn in my stash for it, in the most beautiful poppy blue shade that I just can't get out of my head. But if I'm being realistic, I don't think I can knit that many projects in a single season. And at least right now, these other projects are exciting me just a little bit more than the rainy day. If you had asked me last week what I wanted to cast on next, I would have said the rainy day without hesitation, but after discovering so many beautiful patterns over the last couple of days, my cue shifted a little bit. So for now, the rainy day remains firmly in the if I somehow find extra knitting time category. So those are my knitting plans for the summer of 2026, and I couldn't be more excited for what's to come. As always, I would love to know what you're planning to knit over the next few months, or if there are any patterns that have completely taken over your brain lately. Thank you so much for watching and spending some time with me today. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Happy knitting! Bye!